She's rolling.
Hi, this is Paul Barrere, formerly of Little Feat. And whenever I'm in Southern Maryland, I listen to WMDM in Lexington Park, all hit 98.
Very good. Now the PTX one. And that's AM 92 at the end of that.
AM 92?
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is Paul Barrere, formerly from Little Feat. And whenever I'm in Southern Maryland, I listen to WPTX Lexington Park, AM 92.
I've seen the bright lights of Memphis and the Commodore Hotel.
You're listening to WMDM Lexington Park, and on the phone with us is Paul Barrere, formerly of Little Feat. Good afternoon, Paul.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great.
I understand that you have a new band together.
Well, Catfish Hodge, you all remember Catfish Hodge, and myself, we've been traveling as a duet for about just a little more than a year now. And this time out, we brought some friends with us. So it's the Bluesbusters band now. We have Freebo, who used to play with Bonnie Raitt, playing bass and tuba. T. Lavitz, who played keyboards with the Dregs, and he also played on my solo albums. And we have Larry Zach, who played with Jackson Browne for a couple of tours, and has been playing with the Hodge Brothers band back in Los Angeles.
Uh-huh. What aspirations do you have with this new group?
Well, at the moment, we're just touring, and hopefully someone will take some interest and we can get a record out. But, everybody has other projects they're doing. T has a solo project that he has out on an EP on his own label called Making Records. I've been writing a lot of tunes, a lot of various types of music, country music, funk music, pop music, trying to just move songs as well as myself. Catfish has a band with his brother, the Hodge Brothers band, back in Los Angeles. They just completed a tape that Brianna Hearn, who is Emmylou Harris's producer, produced, and they're trying to sell that. And Larry is part of that band, and he's been also going to school again, music school. And Freebo, he's just been playing. He's been playing with a lot of different people back in Los Angeles. So we put this thing together, and we'll see what happens. It all depends on, the record execs at this point.
We're speaking with Paul Barrere, formerly of Little Feat. How did Little Feat come about? I know that it evolved out of the Mothers of Invention, and then you joined one in 73?
72.
72.
It actually started when Lowell George wrote the tune Willin'. He was playing with the Mothers at the time, and he wrote the tune, and he played it for Frank, and Frank said, "That's real nice, why don't you start your own group?" In essence, you're fired. So he did. He decided to start his own group, and Frank gave him a tape of a young keyboard player from Ventura County, California, named Bill Payne. So Lowell played the tape, and he enjoyed the work, and he got a hold of Billy, and Billy came down to Los Angeles, and he and Lowell sat down and wrote, I guess about 6 or 7 tunes together. And they went to Warner Brothers, just the two of them, and they sat down in one of the heads of A&R department's office and just played them, Lowell on acoustic guitar and Billy on piano, and they got signed immediately. And they got Richie Hayward from the Fraternity of Man band.
Don't Bogart Me.
Don't Bogart Me. And Roy Estrada, who quit the Mothers. And they formed the original band, and they made the first album, Little Feat, in 69. It was released, I believe, in 70. And they toured with not much success, but they were getting a lot of critical acclaim, which wound up to be the... that's what happened to the band in general. We never really had huge success. We had one gold record, but we always wowed the critics. The critics always loved our music.
You had, and still have, quite a cult following here in the Washington-Baltimore area.
Yeah, I love coming back to this area. When we came back here to record Please Don't Fail Me Now, up in Hunt Valley, just outside of Baltimore, it was amazing. That was like when the group really gelled and really took off as a sextet. When Sam, Kenny, and myself joined just before doing Dixie Chicken, they weren't really sure they were going to go on playing or keep the group together, because when you're a young group, you get a lot of good critical acclaim and a lot of good press and everything, and you don't sell any records, it becomes very discouraging. But we came back here and we made that record, Please Don't Fail Me Now, and it was like a very literal title. I mean, if that record hadn't have moved the way it did, we probably wouldn't have gone on.
Now, you did release a couple of singles that were out briefly on the top 40 charts. Isn't this true? You released Easy to Slip, I believe.
Easy to Slip came out, but I don't know that they were ever charted.
And I think they were in the lower 100, between 40 and 100.
Oh, really?
But
well, that's I always thought that tune could be contemporary now. I mean, that was the magic of Little Feat to me, was that the music has no time barriers. It's as current today as it was, 10 years ago.
Had you ever heard the version of Easy to Slip that the Talbot brothers do?
Yes, I have.
What'd you think of that?
I thought it was pretty nice. There's been some very strange covers of Little Feat material. I mean, what's his name?
I know the
Jack
night.
Jones did Dixie Chicken, which I actually saw him do on the Tonight Show one night, which I nearly gagged.
Who did a version?
Jack.
Who
Jack
did a
Jones.
Jack Jones.
Jack Jones.
The race is on. Big.
Yeah.
The Nighthawks are a local Washington band. They, I think, covered Tribe-Face Boogie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love the Nighthawks. We're pretty good friends.
They've come on the station here a couple of times in the past.
Yeah, I know they get down that way a bunch.
You got to come down this way. You got to bring your band down.
Well, we're going to see what we can do about that. This tour is going so well that we're already talking about coming back out in November.
Mm-hmm.
And this tour will take us to Richmond on Wednesday night, Charlotte, North Carolina on Thursday night, and then Hilton Head on Friday and Saturday, and we wind up in Atlanta on Sunday. And then it's back to L.A., I believe, unless Catfish pulls a rabbit out of a hat, in which case Freebo, myself, and Catfish will come back to the D.C. area and play one day, probably at the club The Gentry. But that's all speculation at this point.
We're speaking with Paul Barrere by way of telephone. This is All Hit 98. I know Richie Hayward is receiving notoriety playing with Robert Plant on his latest album, but what are the other members of Little Feat up to?
Well, Sam Clayton has been with Jimmy Buffett for the past 3 years and doing very well. Kenny Gradney's been playing with Mick Fleetwood, has a solo project called The Zoo, and he just got back from Australia. He was down there touring for about, almost 2 months. And Billy Payne has been working in the studios quite a bit in L.A. He was producing Ann Wielding? What's her name? The girl from the Go-Go's.
Uh-huh.
He was producing her solo album, and he also did some movie scores, and he's waiting on James Taylor to go touring again, then he'll go out on the road again.
Now, you played on a lot of studio albums. You've played with, what, Carly Simon?
Carly Simon, Robert Palmer, let's see.
I know at one time the Rolling Stones were considering Little Feat playing with them on their tour because you had received so much press and so much notoriety, and that never gelled, did it, about in 75?
No, we never did tour with them. We opened a show for them in Stuttgart, Germany one time, though, with the Meters and ourselves and the Rolling Stones, which was a lot of fun. They treated us like kings.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm concerned, the Stones are the kings. I mean, any group that can hang on that long and still keep going, they got something going for them.
Well, I think at one point you were compared as the American Rolling Stones.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Uh-huh. Also, you guys collaborated with Chico Hamilton on a jazz album.
Oh, yeah, The Master.
Let's talk about that.
Well, that was really a thrill for me because I had always been a Chico Hamilton fan. His album, A Man from Two Worlds, was always like one of my favorite records. It had Gabor Szabo and Charles Lloyd on it. And somehow Kenny Gradney was friends with Chico's son, who was, at that time, Chico's son was one of the high officials in the Stax record company, the ill-fated Stax record company, I might add. And he really enjoyed Little Feat, and he thought it'd be a great idea to hook up his pop with the members of Little Feat to do a record.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how that happened. At the same time, we were recording an album with a lady named Kathy Dalton, who's kind of a country singer.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were doing all this at one studio in Los Angeles. We'd work during the daytime with him and at night with her.
Hmm.
Those are back in the days of many, many sessions. Nowadays, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of call for funky rhythm and blues slide guitar and stuff.
Well,
but it's coming back, I think.
Well, you guys definitely know your craft, and you're still in demand today. I know that. Is there any of the new music that's out that you listen to that's grabbing you right now?
Oh, I think, yeah, there's a lot of new groups that I like. I mean, I love the Talking Heads, and let's see. waking up and my brain is still trying to kick in. But I like the Talking Heads. I like some of the Power Station stuff. I enjoyed Tina Turner's new work. I mean, I think that stuff's great.
Isn't that a success story in itself?
Oh, yeah. I think as a matter of fact, just went and saw the new movie that she's in.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest anybody who likes Tina Turner go see the movie. It's great.
Have you heard Aretha Franklin's new single?
Yeah.
You dig that? Do you dig it?
Yeah, I love it.
That's
the
cool.
video's pretty hip, too.
Any reflection on the music of the 1970s?
Oh. Well, it's hard to say. I just, it was a time of fun, really.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for me. I mean, the Little Feat thing just started to take off, and it was like, it came after the 60s when everything was so serious, and the protests and everything. So for me, it was just more of a time of fun and of having fun.
Mm-hmm. Well,
almost too much fun.
I'm sure in the
you know what I mean?
I'm sure in the year 2001 they'll be doing remakes of Little Feat songs and playing it through the elevators.
Oh, that'd be great.
All right. Well, as you said, you'll be heading where for on your tour from here?
Oh, to Richmond, Virginia, then to Charlotte, North Carolina, Hilton Head, South Carolina, and then Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Well, we hope to get you down here in St. Mary's County.
Well, I hope we get down there. I'll talk to my agent.
All right. Paul Barrere, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
And
keep rocking down there at All Hit 98.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right, this is Paul Barrere, formerly of Little Feat, wishing you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
In 1966, I found my love. In 1967, I had all there was. And as my time went by, I was satisfied till that situation took me by surprise. Now the two trains running on that line, one train for me and the other lane. A friend of mine would be alright, be just fine. But one train, the other the same conclusion. I don't know how to play the game of what it is or how it's gonna be when one chain is my friend and the other chain is me. Say easy, I can push a shovel, so I guess I really care.